Hi everyone, greetings from my humble garage. Now, to those of you who watch my live Sunday sessions, you probably know this space very well, but to those of you who've never seen them, this is essentially my one-car garage where my 2017 BMW M3 sits. And today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adjusting the suspension height in my car. My car, if you follow my videos, is sitting on M Performance height adjustable suspension, which means you can adjust the height of each shock as you please. And after some measuring, and the car is sitting pretty level here, I've realized that my car is not exactly sitting even, to be exact. So these are the measurements that I've taken. So this is the front. The back is actually the one that gave me sort of the most anxiety. The rear passenger side, 26 inches and a quarter. And driver's rear side, 26 inches. The front passenger side is 26 inches, and the front driver's side is 26 1/8. Obviously, there's a couple of ways of measuring the height. Some people measure it from the center of the cap to the top of the wheel well. Since all my tires are pretty much the same and the same pressure in them and whatnot, I just measured it from the ground up until the beginning of the fender. And as you can tell, exactly 26 inches. We are standing at the 26-inch mark, so this is this wheel, and instead of me lowering this side, I'm actually going to raise this side for two reasons. One, when I sit in the car, the side actually lowers, so I feel like this side should be maybe 1/8 of an inch higher than the other side. And the second thing is, since I installed new wheels, I've been getting just a bit of rubbing, not on this side, on that side. I'll tell you exactly what that rubbing is, and I'm hoping that raising the car just 1/4 of an inch, hopefully will allow me to get rid of that rubbing. If not, we're just gonna have to play with camber. And even though I could be doing this job outside, I'm doing this for two reasons in the garage. First reason, I'm fairly safe inside. I don't want to freak out the neighbors and doing stuff outside. And two is I wanted to show you that it's still possible to work on your car inside your one-car garage. So those of you who are hoping for a two-car garage so you could work on your car, yes, there are ways around that. And today we're going to do that. But also, before we do anything else, I've discovered that wearing rubber gloves is super helpful. I used to use these cheap rubber gloves. These are fairly thick and they don't rip. Well, let's see actually how quickly they can rip when I do this job. But in order for me to protect my beautiful hands, I'm gonna use these gloves, and they're fantastic. This is a 295/30/20 tire. It's got maybe 200 miles on it. I haven't driven the car much. It's got a couple of spins and donuts on it. Still pretty good. And actually, these are the wheels once again, and look how awesome they are. And this is what they look like on the inside. They have been ceramic coated, so can you see all this dust just falls. Now, whenever you're working on the car, you don't want to rely on just the jack. Even though I'm not getting under the car, I'm going to be sticking my head in there just to protect myself in case. And in case you haven't seen my install video, these are essentially the M Performance springs that I installed. And the way they work is obviously you have a spring that's sitting on its seat upside down. Up top, you have this collar, and it's a threaded collar. See, let me get closer. See, this threaded collar allows you to go up or down. In my case, I am going to go up by 1/4 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure the gap between here and here, measure what that is, and add 1/4 of an inch and start spinning it counterclockwise to basically unscrew it from the collar. Now, I know you're also interested in me showing you where the tires were rubbing, so here we go. But before I show you, let me preface a little bit. As soon as I installed the wheels and the tires and I took them for the first long drive, I realized that when I hit heavy bumps, I would get a bit of a rub. I didn't know where the rub was coming from until I realized that it was actually the liner, the wheel liner that was that's under the rear wheel. So I got under there, I took my wheel off, and I just trimmed it a little bit. This is the wheel well. So this is what it looks like right now. This is what I cut. So I cut this side here. because since the tire is wide, it would come up here and it would just rub against this wheel liner. So again, not a big deal to cut it, and it's also not sealed from the factory, so yes, the water will get in there and it's not a problem. It's going to drop down here, but to prevent a lot of moisture and water from getting in there, I just put this HVAC tape, which again gives me just a bit of a protection. And if you know what HVAC tape is, you know that the glue is very strong and it sticks very well and it's very, very durable. Now, since I fixed this rub, I thought I was done, but then I realized that I was also rubbing here. You see there's a bit of a rub, and it's only happening on this side. The other side, because it's slightly higher, I guess it just misses this area. So what we have to do is we're gonna have to jack up this car, or this side, by 1/4 of an inch, and hopefully this finishes, or this fixes, this gentle rub. Now, this suspension has one major flaw, and anyone who has this will tell you about it. Essentially, after a while, when you try to adjust the suspension and you try to turn the collar, the actual tube with the thread, I don't know what you call it, basically spins with the collar, because there is nothing that is blocking this part from spinning. So this is this part, and if you follow my video, the install video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this part is just seated there, and it just sits there, pressed by the pressure. If you try to spin this, this tends to spin as well. So actually what a lot of people do is they pin it. So they drill a hole here and just drill through it so it holds it so people can adjust it. We're going to try to avoid it. If we must, we're going to use big vice grips, and I purchased massive vice grips just to do this job. But we're going to see if we can actually get it done without pulling out the vice grips. First thing we're going to do though is, as you notice, I have some cardboard at the bottom. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this, and to clean it, I'm going to use this 3M high power brake cleaner. I know it'll not corrode any parts. It'll just clean, it'll evaporate very quickly, and that way I'll make sure that I'm not threading any dirt onto the threads. To adjust it, we basically grab this tool, stick it in there, and try to engage one of the teeth that's in there. And we're done. The measurement is exactly 5/8 of an inch. We're also going to adjust the front a little bit to make sure everything's nice and even. I don't know how raising this side is going to affect the other sides, or especially the front, because think about it, you're raising this side, that means you're putting a bit more pressure on the passenger front. So I'm assuming that passenger front should drop a little bit. So if passenger front drops a little bit, that means it's going to put us at below 26. Although I do like my height in the front, and there's no rubbing in the front, so after we let the car settle, we're going to move it forward and back. We're going to measure the front again, and I'm assuming this is going to be sitting a bit high, so we're probably going to have to drop it a little bit, and it's going to be good because I'm going to show you how to drop it. By the way, this also was a couple of 60-70 bucks. This torque wrench, fantastic. I torque my wheels to 120. By the way, the same gloves, not one single rip. Worth the investment. So, all right, and it's done. Just kidding. All right, so it does appear slightly higher because it does need to settle. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna push the car forward and backwards. Why do I say push? My daughter is sleeping upstairs. I'm exactly where I want it to be, 26 1/4. Let's check out the front. This side, as I suspected, is a little less, so 25 and 15/16. Now, what confused me, and let me know if you have the suspension, if you have the same issue, but the number of threads on this side does not equal to the number of threads on the other side. The only thing that makes sense in my mind is the fact that maybe the springs are different lengths. That's really it. So you cannot go by the thread count on both sides. Both sides should be adjusted differently, not taking the same thread count on this side and applying it to the other side, because I've learned the hard way, not only today. I thought I was going crazy a couple of months ago, but this just confirmed to me that that's the case. So always go by measurements, don't ever go by thread counts. Luckily, this side is a lot easier to adjust, and let me show you how and why. I take it back. I thought it was going to be easier, but unfortunately, in order for me to properly measure the spring height, I have to take the wheel off. Now, if I were to just eyeball it, I could just simply grab the spring with my hands and spin it, and that's going to spin on the thread. But since I don't have a way to measure the height, I have to take the wheel off. This is what the front suspension looks like, and this is the height. So to adjust the height, what I have to do is inside there's a little Allen bolt that I have to loosen up. That's going to allow me to spin the whole assembly and raise it. Let's take a look at the wheel well to see if there's any marks. This is a rubbing mark. I once hit a pretty big hole, or like a dip, and I just felt my car compress. So this is most definitely from it. There's some minor rubbing marks here. This seems to be rubbing, I guess, a little tiny bit. And then at full lock, this area rubs, but this is nothing that cannot be fixed. What I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to get a heat gun, and I'm going to sort of push it in and mold it to a different shape, which is no big deal. And of course, I lost the tool to adjust it, but I've got these guys. I'm going to link them in the description. This is all the sizes you will ever need. Look at that. First guess. All right, so we've got 1 1/8. And we're going to raise it 1/4. Essentially what you do is you just grab the spring and the whole assembly spins. But we actually want to go the other way. Okay. And we are there. Let's start to put it back together. And now, there's nothing else for us to do but back it up, even out the suspension, back everything up, and do the final measurement. We did it. Alright, so what have we learned? We've learned that yes, you can adjust the suspension in your garage. The car's going to stay in the garage for the next unforeseeable future. So we're going to take some outside photos in a couple of times, but in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Ghost ride the whip. I'm pretty sure my neighbors think I'm crazy.